Hello and welcome to my watch reviews, and that's exactly what we've got. We've got one of my watches, and this one is a vintage Jump Hour from the early 70s. It's also one of my latest watches to my collection, as this was given to me by my wife for my 50th birthday back in August of 2022. What a wife I've got who can give me a watch like this. So this watch is made by a manufacturer called LIP. They were a French watch manufacturer. They did quite a lot of innovation, and it's an interesting company to read up about. This particular model was designed by a guy called Prince Francois de Baschmakoff. Now, I'm maybe not pronouncing that quite correct. Baschmakoff was a sort of fashion magazine designer. He did a lot of artwork as well, and in 1968 he applied for a patent for a mechanical watch that had a digital display. And I think in 1970, if my research tells me correctly, the patent was granted in France. And between those years, he had contacted LIP, the manufacturer, signed a contract, and the end result was lots of different designs or variations of the watch that you can see in front of you. It is a sort of design classic. It may not be the nicest jump hour I've got in my collection, or most ostentatious perhaps is the right word, but this is probably got the most prestige, if you like, amongst collectors of jump hour watches because of who it is and the fact that it had an absolutely fantastic movement inside. You've got a 3 register, so you've got seconds, minutes and hours, and it's a genuine movement that's been adapted for a jump hour. And if you don't know what a jump hour is, it means that the hour will jump. So rather than the disc rotate as the hour progresses, it'll stay. So on the screen you can see it says 3. It'll stay at 3 until it gets to 3:59, and then there's a spring mechanism that jumps that hour disc over to 4. Now granted, not everybody likes jump hour watches, but I have a very curious fascination with them because usually they are very retro, and that's the sort of style I like. Very flamboyant and in style of the 70s. But I got into them through sort of just following my watch journey. I started off trying to collect mainly retro Seikos. That then took me into seeing LED watches, which were the sort of first battery operated digital watches, if you like, and they were fantastic, and I've still got quite a few of those in my collection now. That then took me on to looking at early digital watches, because I do remember those from my childhood, and in searching for digital watches on eBay I came across these curious things called jump hours, and it got my mind going. You know, with these, the mechanical watchmakers solution to the digital problem. The digital era came, the LCD screen had been invented, quartz crystal had been invented, so you had the quartz crisis going on in Switzerland, and there was a big blind panic and companies didn't know how to react to this. So was it they thought, well, let's make a mechanical watch that had a digital display. I've kind of think that that's possibly what happened. But there's a lot of evidence to suggest the contrary. So this particular watch was possibly early 70s, and that would have been way before some of the things that I'm talking about, certainly LCD, and equally jump hours. They can go back, or at least having a digital disc display can go back to pocket watches of the 18th century. Some very early 1920s watches were a sort of rotating disc display. So there is a lot of history to these things, and not just a flash in the pan reaction as I first thought. Now you might be wondering, how did my wife know I'd even want one of these, or what one of these was? Well, the truth is she didn't. Like probably most men's wives who are into watches or watch repair like I am, I think the wives just put up with what we're doing. As long as it keeps us quiet and busy, I suppose that's all that matters. Now, this year's been a tough year for me. For those who don't know, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and then later on in the year I also had surgery to remove my prostate. So it was an emotional time. But through that time, my wife was conspiring with two of my friends from my Facebook group, a guy called Andy Windle and another friend called Lode Roloffs. And those two knew that I was into Jump Hour watches. Lode especially, he's really tuned up on a lot of watches. He just so happened to have this LIP lying around. So between the three of them, a deal was hatched, or a plan was hatched, and this watch ended up in my wife's possession, and it was presented to me on my birthday in an absolutely fabulous box. And I remember opening it, and I was quite shocked, to be honest with you. I don't think my wife got the reaction she may have hoped for, because I was just stunned. Why would she buy me this of all things? I never thought she'd buy me another watch for certain, so I was a bit taken aback. When I started looking at it closely though, instantly I noticed it got a problem. And that drove me crackers, because obviously, for those again who don't know me, I have another channel called My Retro Watches, where I repair watches from a completely amateur perspective. And what I could see on this was that the hour disc was not lining up where it should do, and it was kind of off all the time, and you couldn't really tell the time at all. And that was really, really frustrating for me, because I wanted to wear and watch the watch, wear and watch the watch, wear and look at the watch and enjoy it for what it was. And I can't do that when I know there's a problem. But equally, knowing there's a problem gets me really excited, because therefore I have to fix it, which then makes it a lot more fun. I was a little nervous taking the case back off this one, because I had been told that the problem could be to do with some springs, and it could be quite complicated. So I'd also gone online on preparation and managed to find a set of the rotating discs and a full set of the springs inside the movement being an AS 1901. Sadly for you guys, I never filmed any of this repair, and ironically I never needed any of those parts either. I'm going to try to explain how it works and then how I resolved the issue by this one simple image that you can see on the screen. So basically you have the hour disc that has sort of teeth on the outside. You have that release lever that locks into place, and you can see that center spring. Now that center spring appears to be wound by the rotation of the minute wheel, and you can see the minute wheel or disc has that little tooth there between 0 and 5. When that hits the release lever, there should be enough tension in that spring for the hour wheel to then jump to the next hour. So with a scratch of my head, I soon figured out that it was just that spring was not getting enough tension. So how could I change the tension to increase the power? So I removed the minute disc itself and found that when the crown's fitted, if you pull the crown out to set the time, I can obviously rotate the minute wheel within the movement and thus put the tension onto the spring. If I did a full rotation, I would get maximum tension into the spring and the crown would stop winding. So I'd release the release lever, and then the hour wheel would actually jump way past 1 hour. So I realized one rotation or full rotation was too much power. So it was trial and error. So you would sort of try to rotate maybe 90 degrees or 180 degrees, and then keep trying and keep having to fit the minute wheel back on in order to see if it was going to click over at the right position. Eventually, after about 10 minutes or so, I got the sweet spot and it worked perfectly. It's honestly so pleasing to fix something like this, because as far as I'm aware, there is no manual out there or instructions as to how to do this, so I've just tried to use my own experience and logic and a lot of trial and error as well, but to get it right, it's brilliant. Now the watch I can wear and enjoy. So of course, here is a wrist shot of what it looks like, because the watch is very unusual. It takes a bit of getting used to having that strap over the top of the watch, and equally it's only around 34 millimeters across, because we can't call it a diameter, can we? So it's still quite small, but it's totally unique. And seeing those 3-digit registers, seeing that seconds disc spin around, honestly, it's great fun. It's harder to read at a glance, but then these watches always are, unfortunately. But either way, I absolutely love this watch. I think it's the jewel of my Jump Hour watch collection. There's not much can beat it. Being a gift from my wife on my 50th on this quite stressful year makes it all the more special, and a watch that will never leave my side. So there you go. That's probably the end of this review of this particular watch. One thing to say, of course, is that the LIP logo really resembles the Hewlett-Packard logo, or really, should we say it's the other way round, because let's face it, LIP watches have been around a lot longer than Hewlett-Packard have. If I didn't say that, I know that the comment section would light up with all of you guys saying the same thing. So talking of the comment section, please leave your comments below. Do you like Jump Hour watches? Do you like this Jump Hour watch? Do you like these vintage reviews of my watch collection? Be very interested to hear your views on that. I will read every one. I'll try to reply to as many as I can. Please also hit the like button. Everyone that watches this who enjoys it, hit that like button. It really makes a massive difference, especially as this is a new channel now and I'm trying to grow it, and this all feeds the algorithm, and without the algorithm, channels just do not get noticed. And again, if you're new to the channel and this is your first video you've watched, consider subscribing. There's going to be new and old and vintage watches come to this channel all the time. I have 200 plus of personal watches and a few sponsored ones thrown into the mix as well. So I'll see you very soon for the next video. Bye for now.